Live 5 News starts now with breaking news.
Boss. Protesters are in the building.
Thank you.
Get down under your chairs if necessary, so we have folks entering the rotunda and coming down this way.
The rhetoric has real risks to human lives.
Let's get back to work.
They tried to disrupt our democracy. They failed.
It was a chaotic day at the U.S. Capitol. A mob of thousands of people stormed the Capitol building. It is the first time that building has been breached in more than 200 years. CBS News now reporting members of President Trump's cabinet are discussing possibly invoking the 25th Amendment, which would make Vice President Mike Pence the President of the United States for the time being. We will bring you that and more in just a few moments. But first, we continue our team coverage now on this historic day in our nation. Heading first to Peter Zampa in our Washington, D.C. bureau. Peter, describe to us what you saw today.
Well, Raphael, good evening. We are officially in a state of public emergency here in the District of Columbia. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser announcing just moments ago that's going to last until January 21st, the day after Joe Biden's inauguration. Here's a shot of the U.S. Capitol. We are just blocks away. This is a shot from our rooftop. We were supposed to be up on this roof for you tonight. We were told to come down because of safety concerns. And as you can see off in the distance, we have sirens in our shot. That paints a picture for you of Capitol Hill right now. We've been in a curfew since 6 p.m. That's going to last until the wee hours of the morning. Ever since these destructive images started flowing in during the electoral vote certification process on Capitol Hill, sirens have been the soundtrack here in Washington. Now, I've worked here for 5.5 years and have never seen anything like the events of today that sadly led to the death of a woman after she was shot inside the Capitol. And despite all of this chaos and attempts at interrupting the counting process for these electoral college votes, these lawfully cast votes, nothing's going to change. Joe Biden is going to be the next president of the United States, despite this chaos on the Capitol grounds today.
All right, Peter Zampa reporting us for Washington, D.C. Tonight, we also have here in South Carolina current and former lawmakers reacting to what has been unfolding there. Paula Tristan Arruda was able to talk with some of them today, and there are a lot of emotions from these political leaders, Paula.
Ralph, the people I spoke to, regardless of political party or affiliation, are calling what happened shocking, horrifying, and heartbreaking. They say that this is not democracy. Former U.S. Congressman and South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford told me that in his 12 years at the U.S. Capitol, he has never seen anything like this, a mob entering the Capitol building. Sanford criticized President Trump and his administration for not speaking out forcefully on what happened. Former U.S. Congressman Joe Cunningham also reacted to the chaos today by saying that this happened as a result of President Trump lying to Americans and spreading misinformation about the election. He says this should act as a wake-up call to the people.
In order to restore, the decency and the integrity and the honesty that I think reflects the American people, you got to send a representative who's illustrative of that and who embodies that.
And I believe in the necessary process of disagreement. It's part and parcel to any organization, whether it's a family unit, a business, or a government. But it's got to be done in a peaceful way, and it's got to be done in a civil way. And these are the demons ultimately that I think Trump unleashed, wherein he'd say the most uncivil of things.
Now, this feeling of disappointment is shared among many other lawmakers across the state. They're hoping that this division across the country will end. Reporting live, I'm Paola Tristan-Arruda, Live 5 News.
And we also talked with freshman Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who represents the Low Country in the 1st District. She says she's very upset by today's events.
Millions of people have been misled in this country to believe that a single member of Congress or the Vice President of the United States can overturn the results of a presidential election vis-a-vis the Electoral College. And that's just not true. and they've been misled that Trump will be president. That's not true. That's not how the Constitution works.
The two senators from South Carolina reacting following today's violence. Senator Tim Scott says today's violence is simply unacceptable. Senator Lindsey Graham says he wants to see a task force identify those who breached the Capitol today and caused such violence. He says those who did should expect prosecutions to the fullest extent of the law. U.S. Attorney for South Carolina Peter McCoy echoing the senator's words, saying anyone who traveled from our state to D.C. and committed these acts of destruction will be prosecuted. And right now, President Trump's Facebook and Twitter pages are both locked. The Twitter freeze is for 12 hours, but if the president continues to violate its rules, his account will be permanently suspended. The president's Facebook and Instagram pages are also both shut down for 24 hours. CBS News reporting some senior members of President Trump's administration are discussing the possibility of invoking the 25th Amendment. If invoked, it could be used to remove a president from office. The vice president, in this case, Mike Pence, would assume the role of commander-in-chief. A Democratic congressman from the state of Washington also telling CBS News congressional colleagues are working on a letter to Vice President Pence about the 25th Amendment. President-elect Joe Biden still set to be inaugurated in just 2 weeks on the same steps those protesters gathered on today. Biden is calling today's events disorder, chaos, even bordering on sedition. He also says these mobs are a reminder of why he says there must be good leaders in this country and why the words of a president matter. Lawmakers in both the Senate and House meeting to certify the electoral count for Joe Biden. This is a live look at the U.S. Senate, where just hours before this, protesters breached those chambers. In the last hour, the Senate has voted to reject Republican lawmakers' challenge to Biden's win in Arizona. Now, we're going to continue to keep you updated as more information comes out of Washington, D.C. Any updates that we get into our newsroom will be given to you on air and online right here on Live 5 News. Be sure to have your Live 5 News app on your smartphone so you can get those latest updates.
Coming up next, we do have some cool weather on the way for tonight. Going to talk about maybe some 30s in some places. How many cups of that piping hot Joe in the morning? Probably going to have to go with the old large cup. Temperatures overnight around 35 to 40 degrees. Chilly start tomorrow, but we have rain to talk about. I'll tell you where and when in just a few minutes.